this is an old Caledonian tender which is surplus to requirements, so I sprayed it up yesterday and I shall do some lining on it. For the cream line here, I generally use Humbrol number 7, which is a buff, but the line is so narrow on the model you can't really tell that it's not a cream, but it does show up nicely and it's a good paint to use. It's full bodied. And again we charge the pen, it's not runny at all. Just goes on the pen like that. Let it run round to the end. Now we can set the width of the line with this dial here. Now we need a good chunky ruler. Just make sure there's no fluff and dust on it, and brush off the model. When you're lining the model, that is the worst time for dust, because it's on your bench for hours at a time, just collecting dust. Now, BR lining was typically 5 inches in from the edge. That is 5 inches to here. But we're drawing this line, which is another 5/8 an inch away. So if I set up my dividers at 5.5 inches, sorry. So this is a CPL scale rule for both 4 and 7mm. Excellent, it's etched onto steel. Now that is the distance from the edge of the lining. I now test the pen is going to actually draw a line. There we go. Place the ruler on the model. And this is where my extra eyes come in, because I'm very long-sighted these days. Check the ruler is in the right position. And put on the first line. Turn it around. And the second one. Checking the rule is parallel to the base there. The action should be smooth and well practiced. Then I finish by doing the 2 verticals. So we've got the straight lines in now, but we know the ends have a little corner on them. We form those corners with a brush. Now this radius here is 4 inches, so we now need to set our dividers to 4 inches. And we go around each corner, just marking that 4-inch position away from the corner. Because where I've overpainted, we need to cut that back. I'm just nicking the paint very gently, I can see it. Cutting that back line back 4 inches from the end. Now the next point is we take the brush. Needn't be our best brush. And we damp it with white spirit and blot it out so it's almost dry. And then we take off the paint we don't want up to the little mark. We keep blotting it and cleaning it. This is a satin paint that I've sprayed this with, and it's not as good as a gloss. If you've got a gloss background paint, you'll pick it up far more cleanly. Ideally, you'd actually leave this for, say, half an hour to give the paint chance to just form a skin on it, and it would flake off then rather than soak into your background colour. But we just work around the model, taking the paint off the corners. Right, we've got 4 proper length lines now. Slight blemish here, but we can tend to that later. That's not a problem. Now we take our best brush and only use this brush for lining. Don't be tempted to use it for anything else. And I use a rest. And put in the curved corner. There we are, that's pretty well finished. This last little bit, there's that little gap there, we can just get a tiny bit of paint on our brush and fill that in. There's another one there. That's it, done. Now, at this stage, you now put that away for 24 hours. Because when you put your second coat on, your second colour, this one which is adjacent to it, any alterations you do to this line, you don't want to be lifting this one off as well. So we leave that for 24 hours. And in true Blue Peter fashion, I did this yesterday, so I can do the grey line against that now. That needs a bit of a stir. So lay the ruler so you can see the cream line, and we just rule the grey line adjacent to it. And here we do at least have a guide as to where to finish, but the cream line already being on there. And that's the grey line on. And finally we have the red one. Now on the prototype the red line was vermilion, which is a very bright orangey red. But on the model we tend to try and dull down all the colours really, so that the cream is slightly darker than we would use. And the red, I use Humbrol number 19, which is post office red. And it's nice rich, they call it gloss red. Now this distance here on the prototype is 1.75 inches or thereabouts. It varied from position on the engine to the various companies doing it. I tend to estimate where it is rather than measure it, because it's a bit small to measure. Now because this line is wet here now, I need to space my ruler off the model, else I'm going to smudge the grey line. So a bit of plasticard just lifts it off the surface. I'll just set this, that total width across there is 2 3/4 inches. So if I set the dividers at 2 3/4 inches, just under 1 millimetre, that'll give me an idea of where to put the line, get it parallel. There we go. Right, we've finished the lining on this side now, and we put it away for 24 hours now before we continue with the grey and the red lines on this other side. What I have done in the meantime is put a grey undercoat on the buffer beam. It was black, I didn't bother to mask it, but the grey undercoat provides a good key for a background for the red to go on.